When the Prime Minister left for the G7 summit, he confided to those on the trip that he saw this event as the most crucial meeting of his Prime Ministership. And it's turned out to be just that. As an onlooker or guest of British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, he's played an extremely pivotal role. Just when the scribes were predicting a climate change-centric G7, well, by day two, we've sort of switched to something involved in a trilateral meeting between the United States and the United Kingdom and Australia, which was talking China and against Chinese aggression, influence and human rights abuses. The G7 resolved to create a competitor to China's Belt and Road Initiative under the existing investment plan titled Build Back Better World. It was short on detail, but the intention won't please Beijing. And both President Biden and Prime Minister Johnson addressed the concerns over the origins of COVID-19.
I think China has to start to act more responsibly in terms of international norms on human rights and transparency. Transparency matters across the board. We don't know, we haven't had access to the laboratories to determine whether or not, I have not reached a conclusion because our intelligence community is not certain yet, whether or not this was a consequence of from the marketplace of a bat and interfacing with animals in the environment that caused this COVID-19.
I do think there's a problem with zoonotic diseases, and this is clearly the thing we have to focus on. And it's the practice that seems to be particularly prevalent in some parts of Asia, Southeast Asia, South Asia, of farming wild animals. That is really where the risks are. At the moment, the advice that we've had is it doesn't look as though this particular disease of zoonotic origin came from a lab. Clearly, anybody sensible would want to keep an open mind.
He's keeping an open mind, Boris Johnson. Now, it was in this 45-minute trilateral meeting with both leaders that the Prime Minister created at somewhat of a unified stance on China a priority.
We had the opportunity today was to discuss the Indo-Pacific situation more broadly. Australia has no greater friends than the United States and the United Kingdom. And we've been working together on our respective security issues for a very long time. And so we had a good opportunity to talk about those today and look to see how we can further cooperate in the future. The situation only reinforces the need for us to have deeper cooperation.
And the PM also used the occasion to push for another investigation into the origins of COVID-19, something the WHO is now supporting. Now, despite his initial call for an investigation, which triggered an unprecedented amount of anger from China, which has hurt our exports, the PM has obviously been buoyed by the strength in numbers at the summit.
We made very strong cases. We have for some period of time now, both in alert systems of potential pandemics at their outset, as well as the importance of ensuring the follow-through of the investigation processes that are still necessary and need to be undertaken as recommended by the WHO team that was brought together to investigate this pandemic for no other reason that we are better prepared to deal with future pandemics.
It's right to say that the world is witnessing a new era in military and diplomatic aggression from China, but this G7 has drawn, well, a kind of proverbial line in the sand. After years of ignorance, China wasn't even on the agenda at the last G7 summit 3 years ago. While nations such as Germany and Italy are a little shy of upsetting China at this stage, the rest of the G7 have bought into Morrison's warnings about China's aggression and have come on board. In response, we had a fairly meek retort from Beijing via their London embassy overnight. The days when global decisions were dictated by a small group of countries are long gone. We always believe that countries, big or small, strong or weak, poor or rich, are equals, and that world affairs should be handled through consultation by all countries. Well, that's not so easy when they don't even pick up the damn telephone. On climate change, the G7 didn't produce too much to warm the hearts of the global warmists, not even a set date to stop burning coal. The PM didn't jump through any emission target hoops either, but had discussions with Japan and Germany in that final day about working on new technology to transition from fossil fuels. For someone who came to the table as a second thought invitee, the PM became a moderately noisy dinner guest who took full advantage of what was on the menu and wasn't prepared to change his choices. He's now having separate meetings, first in London with Boris Johnson tomorrow and then in Paris with Emmanuel Macron. Signing a free trade agreement before he leaves Europe would be icing on the cake, but right now that's not likely to be served.